Hey, Kinsey, and welcome back to Remember What the Lord Has Done. Last time we were in 1 Samuel, getting introduced to Samuel. Today we're seeing more of that. We were also introduced to Eli and his wicked sons. Well, we're going to see the end of them today, and we'll see the ark being captured. We'll also see a little bit on Samuel subduing the Philistines, and then here it comes. Yeah, sure enough, Israel asks for a king. This is something that God knew was coming, and man, it frustrates Samuel. And that makes sense. But we'll talk a little bit about that because I think we often ask for a king. So, 1 Samuel 4 through 8 today. So, chapter 4. And Samuel's words came to all Israel. Now, the Israelites went out to fight against the Philistines. The Israelites camped at Ebenezer, and the Philistines at Aphek. The Philistines deployed their forces to meet Israel, and the battle spread. Israel was defeated by the Philistines, who killed about 4,000 of them on the battlefield. When the soldiers returned to the camp, the elders of Israel asked, "Why did the Lord bring defeat upon us today before the Philistines? Let us bring the ark of the Lord of the covenant from Shiloh, so that it may go with us, and save us from the hand of our enemies." So the people sent men to Shiloh, and they brought back the ark of the covenant of the Lord Almighty, who is enthroned between the cherubim. And Eli's two sons, Hophni and Phinehas, were there with the ark of the covenant of God. When the ark of the Lord's covenant came into the camp, all Israel raised such a great shout that the ground shook. Hearing the uproar, the Philistines asked, "What is all this shouting in the Hebrew camp?" When they learned that the ark of the Lord had come into the camp, the Philistines were afraid. "A god has come into the camp," they said. "We're in trouble. Nothing like this has ever happened before. Woe to us! Who will deliver us from the hand of these mighty gods? They are the gods who struck the Egyptians with all kinds of plagues in the desert." "Be strong, Philistines. Be men, or you will be subject to the Hebrews as they have been to you. Be men and fight." So the Philistines fought, and the Israelites were defeated. Every man fled to his tent. The slaughter was very great. Israel lost 30,000 foot soldiers. The ark of God was captured, and Eli's two sons, Hophni and Phinehas, died. That same day, a Benjamite ran from the battle line and went to Shiloh, his clothes torn and dust on his head. When he arrived there was Eli sitting on his chair by the side of the road, watching, because his heart feared for the ark of God. When the man entered the town and told what had happened, the whole town sent up a cry. Eli heard the outcry and asked, "What is the meaning of this uproar?" The man hurried over to Eli, who was 98 years old and whose eyes were set so that he could not see. He told Eli, "I have just come from the battle line. I fled from it this very day." Eli asked, "What happened, my son?" The man who brought the news replied, Israel fled before the Philistines, and the army has suffered heavy losses. Also, your two sons, Hophni and Phinehas, are dead, and the ark of God has been captured." When he mentioned the ark of God, Eli fell backward off his chair by the side of the gate. His neck was broken, and he died, for he was an old man and heavy. He had led Israel 40 years. His daughter-in-law, the wife of Phinehas, was pregnant and near the time of delivery. When she heard the news that the ark of God had been captured and that her father-in-law and her husband were dead, she went into labor and gave birth, but was overcome by her labor pains. As she was dying, the women attending her said, "Don't despair, you have given birth to a son." But she did not respond or pay any attention. She named the boy Ichabod, saying, "The glory has departed from Israel because of the capture of the ark of God and the deaths of her father-in-law and her husband." She said, "The glory has departed from Israel, for the ark of God has been captured."
Chapter 5. After the Philistines had captured the ark of God, they took it from Ebenezer to Ashdod. Sorry, that was separated on 2 pages. Then they carried the ark into Dagon's temple and set it beside Dagon. When the people of Ashdod rose early the next day, there was Dagon fallen on his face on the ground before the ark of the Lord. They took Dagon and put him back in his place, but the following morning when they rose, there was Dagon fallen on his face on the ground before the ark of the Lord. His head and hands had been broken off and were lying on the threshold, only his body remained. That is why to this day neither the priests of Dagon nor any others who enter Dagon's temple at Ashdod step on the threshold. The Lord's hand was heavy on the people of Ashdod and its vicinity. He brought devastation to them and afflicted them with tumors. When the people of Ashdod saw what was happening, they said, "The ark of the God of Israel must not stay here with us, because his hand is heavy on us and on Dagon our God." So they called together all the rulers of the Philistines and asked them, "What shall we do with the ark of the God of Israel?" They answered, Have the ark of the God of Israel moved to Gath." So they moved the ark of the God of Israel. But after they had moved it, I just think it's interesting that as they're talking about it, God is lowercase g, but when like the Bible is talking about it, it's uppercase.
Oh, interesting. I
But
didn't notice
after they
that.
had moved it, the Lord's hand was against that city, throwing it into a great panic. He afflicted the people of the city, both young and old, with an outbreak of tumors. So they sent the ark of God to Ekron. As the ark of God was entering Ekron, the people of Ekron cried out, "They have they have brought the ark of the God of Israel around to us to kill us and our people." So they called together all the rulers of the Philistines and said, "Send the ark of the God of Israel away. Let it go back to its own place, or it will kill us and our people." For death had filled the city with panic. God's hand was very heavy on it. Those who did not die were afflicted with tumors, and the outcry of the city went up to heaven.
Chapter 6. When the ark of the Lord had been in Philistine territory 7 months, the Philistines called for the priests and the diviners and said, "What shall we do with the ark of the Lord? Tell us how we should send it back to its place." They answered, "If you return the ark of the God of Israel, do not send it away empty, but by all means send a guilt offering to them. Then you will be healed, and you will know why his hand has not been lifted from you." The Philistines asked, "What guilt offering should we send to him?" They replied, 5 gold tumors and 5 gold rats, according to the number of the Philistine rulers, because the same plague has struck both you and your rulers. Make models of the tumors and of the rats that are destroying your country, and pay honor to Israel's God. Perhaps he will lift his hand from you and your gods and your land. Why do you harden your hearts as the Egyptians and Pharaoh did when he treated them harshly? Did they not send the Israelites out so that they could go on their way? Now then, get a new cart ready, with 2 cows that have been calved and have never been yoked. Hitch the cows to the cart, but take their calves away and pen them up. Take the ark of the Lord and put it on the cart, and in a chest beside it put the gold objects that you are sending back to him as a guilt offering. Send it on its own way, but keep watching it. If it goes up to its own territory, toward Beth Shemesh, then the Lord has brought this great disaster on us. But if it does not, then we will know that it was not his hand that struck us, and that it happened to us by chance. So they did this. They took 2 such cows and hitched them to the cart and penned up their calves. They placed the ark of the Lord on the cart, and along with it the chest containing the gold rats and the models of the tumors. Then the cows went straight up toward Beth Shemesh, keeping on the road and lowing all the way. They did not turn to the right or to the left. The rulers of the Philistines followed them as far as the border of Beth Shemesh. Now the people of Beth Shemesh were harvesting their wheat in the valley, and when they looked up and saw the ark, they rejoiced at the sight. The ark came to the field of Joshua of Beth Shemesh, and there it stopped beside a large rock. The people chopped up the wood of the cart and sacrificed the cows as a burnt offering to the Lord. The Levites took down the ark of the Lord, together with the chest containing the gold objects, and placed them on the large rock. On that day, the people of Beth Shemesh offered burnt offerings and made sacrifices to the Lord. The 5 rulers of the Philistines saw all this, and then returned that same day to Ekron. These are the gold tumors that the Philistines sent as a guilt offering to the Lord, one each for Ashdod, Gaza, Ashkelon, Gath, and Ekron. The number of the gold rats was according to the number of the Philistine towns belonging to the 5 rulers, the fortified towns with their country villages. The large rock on which they set the ark of the Lord is a witness to this day in the field of Joshua of Beth Shemesh. But God struck down some of the men of Beth Shemesh, putting 70 of them to death because they had looked into the ark of the Lord. The people mourned because of the heavy blow the Lord had dealt them, and the men of Beth Shemesh asked, "Who can stand in the presence of the Lord, this holy God? To whom will the ark go up from here?" Then they sent messengers to the people of Kiriath Jearim, saying, "The Philistines have returned the ark of the Lord. Come down and take it up to your place."
I don't know where that starts.
7-1, so the men of
Oh, I
Kiriath.
see it now. Okay.
You're good.
It was all together on mine. So, chapter 7. So the men of Kiriath Jearim came and took up the ark of the Lord. They brought it to
Abinadab?
Abinadab.
Yours is better.
Abinadab's house on the hill, and consecrated Eleazar his son to guard the ark of the Lord. The ark remained at Kiriath Jearim a long time, 20 years in all. Then all the people of Israel turned back to the Lord. So Samuel said to all the Israelites, "If you are returning to the Lord with all your hearts, then rid yourselves of the foreign gods, and the Ashtoreths will commit yourselves to the Lord."
It's behind us.
Oh, and serve him only, and he will deliver you out of the hand of the Philistines. So the Israelites put away their Baals and Ashtoreths and served the Lord only. Then Samuel said, "Assemble all Israel at Mizpah, and I will intercede with the Lord for you." When they had assembled at Mizpah, they drew water and poured it out before the Lord. On that day they fasted, and there they confessed, "We have sinned against the Lord." Now Samuel was serving as leader of Israel at Mizpah. When the Philistines heard that Israel had assembled at Mizpah, the rulers of the Philistines came up to attack them. When the Israelites heard it, they were afraid because of the Philistines. They said to Samuel, "Do not stop crying out to the Lord our God for us, that he may rescue us from the hand of the Philistines." Then Samuel took a suckling lamb and sacrificed it as a whole burnt offering to the Lord. He cried out to the Lord on Israel's behalf, and the Lord answered him. While Samuel was sacrificing the burnt offering, the Philistines drew near to engage Israel in battle. But that day the Lord thundered with loud thunder against the Philistines and threw them into such a panic that they were routed before the Israelites. The men of Israel rushed out to Mizpah and pursued the Philistines, slaughtering them along the way to point below Beth-kar. Then Samuel took a stone and set it up between Mizpah and Shen, and named it Ebenezer, saying, "Thus far the Lord has helped us." So the Philistines were subdued, and they stopped invading Israel's territory. Throughout Samuel's lifetime, the hand of the Lord was against the Philistines. The towns from Ekron to Gath that the Philistines had captured from Israel were restored to Israel, and Israel delivered the neighboring territory from the hands of the Philistines. And there was peace between Israel and the Amorites. Samuel continued as Israel's leader all the days of his life. From year to year, he went on a circuit from Bethel to Gilgal to Mizpah, judging Israel in all those places. But he always went back to Ramah, where his home was, and there he also held court for Israel, and he built an altar there to the Lord.
Chapter 8. When Samuel grew old, he appointed his sons as judges for Israel. The name of his firstborn was Joel, and the name of his second was Abijah, and they served at Beersheba. But his sons did not walk in his ways. They turned aside after dishonest gain, and accepted bribes, and perverted justice. So all the elders of Israel gathered together and came to Samuel at Ramah. And they said to him, "You are old, and your sons do not walk in your ways. Now appoint a king to lead us, such as all the other nations have." But when they said, "Give us a king to lead us," this displeased Samuel. So he prayed to the Lord, and the Lord told him, "Listen to all that the people are saying to you. It is not you that they have rejected, but they have rejected me as their king. They have done as they have done from the day that I brought them up out of Egypt until this day, forsaking me and serving other gods. So they are doing to you. Now listen to them, but warn them solemnly, and let them know what the king will do who will reign over them. Oh, what the king who will reign over them will do." Samuel told all the words of the Lord to the people who were asking him for a king. He said, "This is what the king who will reign over you will do. He will take your sons and make them serve with his chariots and horses. They will run in front of his chariots. Some he will assign to be the commanders of thousands and commanders of fifties, others to plow his ground and reap his harvest, still others to make weapons of war and equipment for his chariots. He will take your daughters to be perfumers and cooks and bakers. He will take the best of your fields and vineyards and olive groves and give them to his attendants. He will take a tenth of your grain and of all your vintage and give it to his officials and attendants, your men servants and maid servants, and the best of your cattle and donkeys he will take for his own use. He will take a tenth of your flocks, and you and yourselves will become his slaves. When that day comes, you will cry out for relief from the king that you have chosen, and the Lord will not answer you in that day." But the people refused to listen to Samuel. "No," they said, "we want a king over us. Then we will be like all the other nations, with a king to lead us, to go out before us and fight our battles." When Samuel heard all that the people had said, he repeated it before the Lord. The Lord answered, "Listen to them and give them a king." Then Samuel said to the men of Israel, "Everyone go back to his own town." I think there's a couple things that stood out to me in that. Number one, I've never really thought about this, but it's interesting. I forget that when the ark is returned from the Philistines, I don't remember the town that it's returned to. Uh, was it Ekron? No, it wasn't Ekron. It was another town. Well, when it's brought back to the Philistines, there are like 70 people that look into it, and God strikes them dead. And it's really cool to know that God's glory is so great. He doesn't care what side you're on. If you are being irreverent to God, justice will be served. And justice was served against the Philistines and against the Israelites. And it's also interesting that they lost it in battle, right? So we're going to take our idol. I mean, that's what they're treating it like. We're going to take our idol out in battle in front of us because it represents our God. And what they did obviously displeased the Lord, and so he let them be slaughtered and the ark captured. So I think that's interesting. And then the other thing too is the Israel asking for a king, and it's, Man, I feel like we do that. I have spiritual mentors that I look up to, and I think the world of. And so I'm really tempted to think, they can do no wrong. And I look to those spiritual leaders instead of just looking to God often. Oh, so and so knows the Bible well, or they understand it really well. They've looked into this undoubtedly a lot more than I have, and I trust their interpretation of the Bible more than what I read on the pages. And so I think we have a tendency from time to time to kind of elevate those that are in leadership positions, and instead of just looking to the Lord. And it's crazy to think that God has carried them through so much, and yet they choose a king, and they've already counted the cost, and they think that it's worth it. He's going to take your daughters and your sons, and he's going to make your sons run in front of the chariots. Well, the chariots, I would think, are like the power horses of the army. Like, it's going to slaughter everything. But if your sons are in front of the chariots, that's crazy. Like, that's sobering. And then your daughter's taken away to be cooks and perfumers, and it's like, well, I suppose they're taken care of by the king. You probably don't see him. Like, so yeah, and not to mention all these taking. So I thought that was interesting. I don't really have a great analogy for that today, but I will say that you and I played an awesome round, a couple rounds of bathroom hide and seek. So you would run into our bathroom and you would close the door, and then I would dive behind the bed and you'd open the door. You were like looking around. And then I'd pop up, and then you'd run back into the bathroom and close the door. And then I'd book it right next to the door, and then you'd open it. And then you'd come out and I'd jump out, and you'd have like, and you'd be like, And so I found like 5 or 6 great hiding places, and you were all about it, gut laughing. It was super cute. It was awesome. So
Yeah, I think the one for me today is kind of, it was with you, but I witnessed it, was her making a mess with the pillows.
Oh my
a
gosh.
mess, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so she likes to take all the pillows. You like to take all the pillows, I'm talking to you. Off the couch and just put them on the ground. But your dad
So
keeps
cute.
going, you made a mess. What are we going to do? And then you go, it's a mess.
Yes.
Yeah, and so you just found pure joy out of that.
It was awesome. It was so cute.
Yeah,
Yeah.
gut laughing about
Yeah,
it.
yeah. And then I would turn around while you were pulling the pillows down, and then you'd wait, and then I'd slowly turn around and I'd be like, "Oh my goodness, what is that?" And you'd be like, "Nice." It was super. It was awesome. But yeah, it was super cool times. And you had a really good day today. Went to the park, and you went down with Big Slide, which was huge. The weather was great, and oh yeah, you were climbing up the slide with a chicken nugget in each hand, and it was awesome.
Yeah.
So yeah, the summertime is going to be great. You're running around in the grass too, so at home here, so it was super cool. But yeah, anyway, worth praying about. Let's do it. God, you've given us so much, Lord. May we remember that you are the provider, God. It's not that our bosses have allowed us these jobs, God, that provide provision for us, Lord, that it is you, God. You are the one that has provided this house. You are the one that has provided chicken nuggets. You are the one that has provided this family, God. May we not look to others and elevate them to a place where they should not be, God. But we pray that for Kinsey as well, that as she recognizes the provision that she has, may she recognize that it comes from you, God, and may that fuel her joy even more. God, we thank you so, so much for all that you've given, so much for your son. And in his name we pray. Amen. Well, Kinsey, we love you. We appreciate you. And we will plan on seeing you tomorrow. Have a good one.